brings me to this kind of issue about empathy and compassion. Loving people, there's a lot of folks who will build you a basket full of the characteristics of what an enlightened person and who they are. Love, compassion, forgiveness. There's about 5 of them like that. And sometimes people will throw into the middle of that empathy. Now, I'm not a big fan of empathy. And I'll tell you why. I'm a big fan of compassion. And there's a distinct kind of difference about that. Compassion is what you do to help people after they've got a problem of some sort or another. And Lord knows I've spent a lot of time trying to do that in my life. But empathy is different. Empathy says that you share the emotional kind of aspects of whatever the situation is that the other person is in. That you feel what they feel. Now, there's a couple of things to be said about this. I used to have a couple of people who worked for me in Washington when I had the Arlington Institute going there, who went to a church called the Church of the Savior, which is a kind of famous kind of evangelical church that was very active in social gospel work, which is to say engagement with the community and other folks and legal aid clinics and housing and any number of other kind of things that at that point were not conventionally the way evangelicals looked at the world. And this woman in particular, and the other guy that I knew, were getting sick. I mean, they were just physically getting sick. And I said, what's going on here? And they said, well, our pastor has told us that we need to empathize with people who are poor and that we should spend our time as best we can to imagine what it would be like to be poor and how you wouldn't have any food and how horrible it would be and that how the police would be on top of you and all that kind of stuff. And that he said that the way that you kind of effectively relate to the Christian admonitions, I guess, is that you do this. And it made me shiver because I could see that she was driving herself from this imagining into this space that it was affecting her health, and her mental health, and her physical health. I attended for a long time a similar kind of church. The reason I know about the Church of the Savior is because I was active for a long time in the Salle Street Church, which was located on LaSalle Street in Chicago. And we too were evangelicals, but way outside of the box. I mean, we started legal aid clinics. I built a $11 million housing project that was mixed income, mixed racial. I mean, we did all kinds of cool stuff. We had sitting right next to Cabrini Green, which was one of the toughest kind of neighborhoods in Chicago. And we were doing counseling and all kinds of stuff in there. And we had a Young Life program. Any of you resonate and know what that was. It's a program for kids in high school and college. And we had a young life director. And he was so committed and so engaged and so concerned about the young people and in the community and what he was doing that I watched over years that it destroyed his life. It destroyed his marriage. And he had to leave and go move out of town, and he went to Madison, Wisconsin, where he didn't have to worry about the inner city of Chicago. And I similarly watched the minister of our church die at 52 years old because he so kind of identified with all of these problems that all of these folks had. Now, there's a kind of a principle in business that says if you can't keep the business going, you can't do any good, right? That's particularly the case with nonprofits. If you don't look after the business side of things, it doesn't make any difference how much good you want to do and what your mission is and all of that kind of stuff. If you can't keep the lights on and pay the folks, then all those good ideas come to nothing. And it's the same that is the case with us, is that if you can't keep yourself together, and if you can't keep yourself feeling kind of strong, and you're kind of emotionally and also in terms of your physical kind of situation, then you are going to have a really rough time in the kind of inner city kind of situation that is going to come this way. And so as far as I'm concerned, this is not about empathizing. And the problem with that is that everybody that's trying to do this media and everything, they're trying to get you to empathize with the poor babies in Ukraine and all of those kinds of things, which are all manipulative things to get your emotions and make you feel differently. And it's corrosive at best. And I would suggest to you that the essence of this evolutionary jump, this increase in consciousness and everything, is this ability to see more broadly and see the I've talked about before about how no matter what you call this jump, it's about an expanded awareness, about seeing yourself, and you're seeing the world in broader terms, in more sophisticated kind of terms. And what that means is you see this integrated kind of process environment that does not, it's not focused on little things and the problems and the issues that are associated with it. You also need to keep in mind it's all a play, right? It's all a game, and it's all going to be over with here one of these days, and we're all going to get together after the cast party after the play, and we're going to all laugh and carry on and sit and talk about how that was pretty cool the way you did that and whatever, and that was the way you innovated, because this is not what's happening around us is not what matters, and that's essential to where we're going here. And so let me just say again, I wanted to say that, and it came to me this morning because the indicators are just converging that suggests that this is going to get rough. Supply chains are collapsing in ways that we've never seen before in our life. You've got all this geopolitical stuff going on. You've got climate change inbound that is going to clearly influence, the context, the environment in which we all live. And to say nothing about technological advances all of the other things that we've talked about in the past. And so this is about not getting emotionally attached. This is about getting back, being the observer, right? You've heard many people and books and authors and stuff talk about you want to be the observer. Don't have to be, you don't want to be in there engaged in your emotions in the middle of it all. You need to get back and be able to, because if you get all the emotions tied up, you don't think right, right? And the end of that is anger. If you run yourself down that thing and get them emotionally tied up, and then you go, then you get mad, all rationality goes out of the door, out of the window. And so that what you got to do is stay in the place where it can make sense and you can make some reasonable decisions. And we're all going to need that in the coming months, in the coming weeks.